Mark and Elena Riggs were just trying to enjoy their new, hard-earned home in the tranquil, manicured community of Whispering Pines. That peace shattered one Saturday afternoon when a man in a cheap, imitation security uniform, claiming to be HOA compliance officer, Bill Garrity, marched onto their property. He barked about an unapproved garden gnome, his face twisted with petty authority. When Elena calmly refused to be bullied, Garrity's hand shot out, a sharp, shocking crack against her cheek. Mark saw it from the kitchen window. The red mark on Elena's face, her stunned tears, and the smug look on the imposter's face ignited a cold, focused fury inside him. He wasn't a violent man, but he was a man with a very particular set of skills, honed in a past life he'd tried to leave behind. He set down his coffee mug. 5 minutes, he thought. That's all I need. The manicured lawns and sterile silence of Whispering Pines had always felt like a gilded cage to Mark Riggs. A former Army Ranger and, later, a contractor for a private intelligence firm, he'd bought into the suburban dream for Elena. She deserved peace after the years of his unexplained absences and classified nightmares. He was just a quiet IT consultant now, tending to his azaleas and trying to forget the things he knew how to do. The man in the ill-fitting khaki uniform had been a buzzing fly for weeks. Bill Garrity, he'd introduced himself, patrolling the streets in a golf cart with a magnetic HOA security sign. He'd nitpick trash can placement, measure grass with a ruler, and levy imaginary fines. Most residents, cowed by the labyrinthine HOA bylaws, paid up just to avoid hassle. Mark had his suspicions. The uniform lacked any official insignia, that his citations were on generic office paper, but he'd let it slide. Peace, remember? That changed when the slap echoed across his driveway. Mark didn't run. He walked. A methodical, terrifying calm settled over him. The screen door hissed shut behind him. Elena, holding her cheek, whispered, "Mark, don't, it's not worth it." Garrity puffed out his chest, seeing a typical suburban husband approaching. "Sir, your wife was obstructing a community inspection. You need to control." Mark didn't let him finish. In one fluid motion, born of 1,000 hours of close-quarters combat training, he swept Garrity's legs, planted a knee on his chest, and pinned his wrist in a lock that made the man gasp. It took 3 seconds. "Who are you?" Mark's voice was low, a rasp of gravel. "I'm with the HOA. You're assaulting an officer." Mark increased pressure on the wrist. "The real HOA president is Martha Guilford. Her number is 555-0182. You want me to call her right now and ask about your credentials?" He'd memorized the entire HOA directory and network topology his first week. Old habits. Garrity's eyes widened. Panic flickered. From the golf cart, a younger man, Garrity's deputy, jumped out, brandishing a taser. "Let him go, old man." Mark didn't even look up. "Son, the safety's on. And the charge indicator is red. It's been discharged. You're holding a paperweight." The kid looked down, bewildered. Mark returned his focus to Garrity. "The slap. We're going to talk about that. But first, you're going to tell me who you really are and where the money goes." He applied a specific, agonizing pressure point. Garrity squealed. The confession tumbled out between sobs. He was no cop. He was Bill Garrity, a failed rent-a-cop, who'd seen a soft target in the wealthy, conflict-averse residents of Whispering Pines. With a uniform from a costume store and a domineering attitude, he'd been collecting fines for 2 years, pocketing over $150,000. The deputy was his nephew, a gullible college kid. Mark recorded it all on his phone, which had been in his pocket, voice memo app already running. He'd hit record the moment he stepped outside. But the confession wasn't enough. Not for the slap. He hauled Garrity to his feet. "Now, you're going to walk to every house you've extorted. You're going to apologize, return every cent with 20% interest from a cashier's check I will escort you to get, and then you will personally go to the sheriff's office and turn yourself in. You will say you were overcome with remorse. Or what? Garrity spat, though his bravado was gone. For the first time, Mark let the mask slip completely. The pleasant suburban dad vanished, replaced by the ghost of a man who had broken terrorists in darkened rooms. His eyes went flat and empty. He leaned in close, his voice barely a whisper, yet carrying the weight of absolute certainty. He described, in precise, clinical detail, what would happen to Garrity's finances, his reputation, his very sense of safety, if he didn't comply. He mentioned vulnerabilities Garrity didn't even know he had. An offshore gambling account, a mistress in the next town, the illegal modification on his personal car. Garrity turned ash white. He understood. This wasn't a neighbor. This was a predator he'd been stupid enough to bite. The next hour was a parade of shame. Door after door, Mark standing silently behind a trembling Garrity, who handed back checks, apologized profusely, and cited a sudden attack of conscience. The stunned residents took their money, many shooting looks of awe and fear at the quiet man who had somehow made the neighborhood tyrant crumble. The final stop was the sheriff's station. As they stood outside, Garrity and his nephew were broken, tears of genuine fear streaking their faces. "Please," Garrity begged, his voice hitching. "Please, don't do what you said. I'll go in, I'll confess everything. Just, stop." Mark looked at him, then at Elena, who was waiting in their car, the red mark on her face finally fading. He gave a small, cold nod. "5 minutes ago, you thought you were in control. Remember this feeling. Now go." He watched them shuffle through the automatic doors, then walked back to his car. The rage had cooled, replaced by a faint, familiar weariness. Back home, Elena held his face in her hands. "I saw him, at the end. The old you. He's never really gone," Mark admitted, resting his forehead against hers. "Just redirected." The next day, the real HOA, horrified and grateful, offered Mark the head of the security committee. He declined. But a strange calm settled over Whispering Pines. Trash cans could be out an hour late. Lawn flamingos made a brave, unchallenged reappearance. And a new, unspoken rule was understood. Don't cause trouble, and especially, don't mess with the Riggs family. Because everyone knew, even if they couldn't prove it, that the quiet IT guy with the nice smile had dismantled a 2-year scam and broken a bully in under 5 minutes. And he'd done it all without throwing a single punch.